Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to Diana Emerson today. We will be listening to Left in Blood, the Cathy Swartz murder.
Brian, from the start, detectives were certain they had all they needed to quickly solve Cathy Swartz's brutal murder. But along the way, some evidence was lost. Opportunities were missed. An innocent man was left living under suspicion for nearly 35 years until new DNA science came along. Can you talk about, walking up the stairs? I read the police report. Said you saw blood on the railing coming up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All over the wall. Smeared all over.
Blood
Walls.
smeared all over.
Walls everywhere. Yeah.
I talked to her every day. We would talk on the phone. Neither one of us had a car, but we would talk on the phone every day. Um, we would hang out together. We would make plans together, and it was just gone, just like that.
Who's this?
This is Buddy.
Oh, his not just your buddy, but his buddy.
Yeah.
There's no telling where life will take you once you've seen the worst that life can offer.
You got a lot. That is loud. Is that just for one day? Yeah. For one day. Yeah. The other day I heard it 48 hours.
It was just a couple of miles away, and 35 years ago, Cathy Swartz, her baby Courtney, and her fiance shared a small two-story apartment at Riverside Townhouses, a gathering of tidy brick and aluminum-sided rentals on the edge of Three Rivers. It was December 2nd, 1988, just 3 weeks before Courtney's very first Christmas. Mike Warner, the man Cathy planned to marry, told police he came home from work mid-afternoon, as always, expecting to find her watching her favorite soap opera.
It's all over the wall. Smeared all over.
Blood
Walls.
smeared all over.
Walls everywhere. Yeah.
Wow,
I mean, it's like painted on.
really?
That bad, yeah. Yeah.
His fiancée, dead in an upstairs bedroom. Cathy's daughter Courtney, the child he planned to help raise, was standing in her crib, unharmed, in another room, barely old enough to stand on her own. Police say it appeared that someone recently had changed the baby's diaper.
I just wish I could have got to meet her. Or know her. It hurts.
Courtney is now 35, a mother herself. She knows what she knows about her mom and her murder from her mom's parents who raised her, and later from police reports.
I remember my whole life, just going to the store or anywhere, seeing people and just wondering, I wonder if that's who killed my mom.
The man behind the camera capturing this awful video that day was Michigan State Police crime scene tech Ken Lanigan.
One of the bloodier scenes we've been to, you could see, she was definitely probably fighting for her life and struggling because there was blood down in the kitchen area and up the stairway and on the walls.
Cathy had been beaten and strangled before her throat was cut, left to die in her bedroom. From the start, former prosecutor Jeffrey Middleton worked closely with police on the investigation. It became the most time-consuming case of his career.
A young woman is killed in her apartment, and her 9-month-old baby's in a playpen, and it's in your town, and everybody knows about it, and people are frightened about it. And she deserved better than that. She deserved to have it solved.
On the pink phone in Cathy's bedroom, crime scene technicians found a bloody fingerprint. The phone line had been cut.
Besides the bloody fingerprint on the phone, there was a blood kind of water mixture footprint on the bathroom floor. And it appeared as though the suspect had washed up or taken a shower afterwards to clean up.
The bath water still running when investigators took this crime scene video hours later. The killer left behind a size 9 left bare footprint in blood. Like fingers, the toes and the balls of the feet have distinct prints.
Having a footprint, not a shoe print, but a footprint, bare footprint in blood was, unusual.
The crime scene quickly went from grisly to bizarre. The crime scene techs were using a new piece of equipment for the first time that illuminated evidence not visible to the naked eye.
When we hit it with that alternate light source, it said Metallica and the name Harley on the refrigerator.
Specifically, Harley was here. They moved the light over Cathy's body.
In examining her body, looking for hairs and fibers, we found writing on the inside of her thigh. And it said, "I was here." But
written on her thigh.
Written on her thigh.
Not on her clothes.
No,
on her skin.
On her skin. It kind of blew our minds. We'd never seen anything like that before.
She was very careful. And I would call her and I'd say, hey, I'm going to come over, which took me all of 5 minutes to get over there. And her door wasn't unlocked, even though she knew I was coming. Same thing, knock. Hey, it's me. So there's no way she would have let anybody in that she didn't know.
He didn't probably come in like a wild-eyed killer. He came in and said, hey, how you doing? Can I come in? And then, it went south from there. He was there with the intent to try to have a relationship with her, and she wasn't interested, and that's when it turned into a homicide.
Cathy Swartz had no known enemies. She grew up on a 2-acre farm in nearby Mendon, a tiny village wedged between cornfields on a bend of the St. Joseph River. She was in Girl Scouts 4-H, had a pony when she was 8. Her class of 1987 at Mendon High School was so small that it barely filled 2 pages of the yearbook. There she is in the 9th grade, not far from her good friend Jennifer.
We went to school together the whole time. Mendon's very small.
Cathy's family moved to Three Rivers before her senior year. Her dad ran the pro shop at the local bowling alley where Cathy bowled in a league with her mom. She worked for a time at the local Burger King. In March 1988, at the age of 18, after dropping out of high school, Cathy gave birth to Courtney.
She was pregnant a few months after I was, and, kind of bonded us again, brought us together. I'd take my daughter over there, and we'd hang out, and the girls would be on the floor, and she was just a very loving person all around, so I knew she'd be a good mom.
And she says she loved her fiancé, Mike Warner. Courtney was just 6 months old when the two met in September 1988. They got engaged on November 10th, 3 weeks before the murder. He worked at a nearby paper plant.
Could Mike have done something like this?
Absolutely not. There was never even a thought that he could have ever done anything like that. No. I mean, he loved her. There would have never been a situation that I would have ever thought he did it.
The night before the murder, Cathy and her fiancé ate fish and chips, played a couple of board games, Sorry and Payday, before turning in at midnight. Cathy kissed him goodbye, he told police, still in her nightshirt, when he left for work at 5:25 the next morning. He got home at 3:30 that afternoon to discover the blood and Cathy's body. He ran to a neighbor who called police, then ran back inside to get the baby. Three Rivers Police Detective Kenny Baker was among the first on the scene.
Somebody moved the body from work. She was killed on the floor with her head up towards the edge of the bed. Just as blood splattered on the wall. Took the body and turned it around 180 degrees, pulled it out to the doorway so she could look at the baby in the baby room.
The autopsy revealed 3 cuts on her neck that caused massive blood loss. It also showed that she was strangled, beaten, and suffered cuts on her hands, defensive wounds. The listed cause of death was the deep cut to her neck and strangulation. While police did not find a murder weapon, they did find this, what appears to be the outline of a pair of scissors in blood on a pair of sweatpants.
I know she fought for her life. I know that, I mean, she was little, but she fought till her last breath.
It appeared the killer, after showering, escaped past the fully decorated Christmas tree, over the stuffed Muppets, and out the back door, knocking down a candy cane along the way. Neighbors saw nothing that could help.
If he's killing my mom, it's noisy. I'm not screaming, I'm not crying, nobody hears me, nobody hears the ruckus that's going on in the apartment.
The medical examiner told police that based on the color of the bruises, the beating likely lasted 15 minutes. They figured she died shortly after noon. As for baby Courtney, she was clean and no longer in her PJs, instead wearing pants, a shirt, and one Cabbage Patch sock. Her disposable diaper was only damp.
We wondered, the thought maybe her diaper had been changed.
After the break, what about those mysterious messages on Cathy Swartz's refrigerator? Or those messages on her body? Would any of this lead to her killer? Back to our story, Cathy Swartz is found murdered in her apartment. Strange writing on her refrigerator and on her body. The focus turns quickly to her fiancé.
Quickly ruled out.
Well, he was real hard to get a handle on. He just lost his girlfriend. His apartment is all in disarray, and he was like a very little affect. It's like, yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah, but they were on me every day.
Were they?
Every day, yeah, I'm saying. Oh, they thought I knew who did it. I didn't, you know?
Oh, they thought you knew who did.
Yeah, they kept pressuring me. You told us who did that, you know?
There was never even a thought that he could have ever done anything like that.
But you had an alibi.
Yeah, but I was at work that day.
About a half hour away at Lakeland, Paper, and Sturgis. And most importantly, his prints did not match. Even with the fiancé all but eliminated as a suspect, police remained confident.
The killer basically left his calling card, right? A fingerprint and a bloody footprint. 2 calling cards.
2, yeah.
And they had those handwritten messages. I was here on Cathy's leg, and Metallica, and Harley was here on the refrigerator. And what do you know? Cathy's ex-boyfriend, 19-year-old Troy Schulteis, was a huge fan of Metallica. And he loved Harley-Davidson motorcycles so much that it earned him a nickname, Harley. He even had a Harley sticker on the back window of his Ford Ranger.
I said Troy did it. I mean, that's the first person that popped into my mind. That's what I told the police.
There were reports, according to court records, of a rocky relationship. Even Schulteis's mom had heard that.
Said, like he was mean to her and all that. I mean, that's somebody's word against his. I mean, I don't have any idea whether that was ever true or not.
It also didn't help that Harley had no alibi.
There was a witness that saw his truck there that very afternoon at the end of the school day.
His arrest 3 days after the murder made headlines. Harley, who had no criminal past, denied the killing. As for the refrigerator calligraphy, he told police that he had drawn it with a red marker months earlier at a party and had wiped it off, which would explain why it was no longer visible to the naked eye.
The same time he wrote on the refrigerator, Metallica and all that stuff, is when he said he wrote on the road.
Detectives, still confident they had their killer, sent Harley's fingerprints and footprints to the State Police Crime Lab in Grand Rapids.
Harley was arrested and they got his fingerprints and footprints, and I think they hand delivered them to me as soon as they got them. And so they want me to compare them, and
They're thinking
everybody's
thinking this is going to steal
this is our guy, and I'm looking at the prints, and it's not him. I can't identify the prints to him. They're not him. Are you sure? Can you look again?
Yeah.
And it's, well, you can look at it all day long again, but it's not going to change. It's not him. So they then immediately released him from jail.
9 days after his arrest. But the suspicion followed Harley for years.
He quit in senior year in high school. He quit because of that.
Undeterred, detectives worked down their list of possible suspects, including this man, also from Cathy's past, Michael Howard, a person of interest with a possible motive. In a paternity suit filed by the state, Cathy identified Howard as Courtney's father. 4 days after the murder, a court-ordered paternity test came back. Positive. Michael Howard was the dad.
Did you guys look at him?
Yeah, oh yes. Same thing. It wasn't his fingerprint. It wasn't his footprint.
The baby daddy also had a solid alibi. Cathy's fiance says he also gave detectives the name of an old elementary school buddy, Robert Waters, who had visited their apartment a month before the murder.
Ran into him in the grocery store, I believe, and invited him over. He came over one night.
But Waters, who was 19 at the time, had moved to Arizona before the murder. Another name crossed off the list. Then, this bizarre turn. On the same day of the murder, and at nearly the exact time, a car speeding out of Three Rivers plunged into the St. Joseph River. It took a half hour for rescuers to pull 24-year-old Christina Shelton and her 3-year-old daughter from the submerged car. The next day, the murder and fatal crash shared the front page. But what the initial stories didn't say, the deceased driver and Cathy Swartz were neighbors.
Same apartment complex. And almost the same time of day. Yes, about noon on Friday. She left the apartment for reasons unknown and was headed toward Centerville. She had her daughter in the car, and she was driving along the river, and she went in the river and drowned, and they saved the daughter. And the speculation always was that she saw something that was upsetting to her, and she took off.
Police compared footprints and fingerprints on the woman's birth certificate against those left by the killer.
Make sure she wasn't the killer.
She wasn't the killer.
But you still don't know if she maybe
I don't
saw
know.
the suspect was being chased.
Right. And I don't know to this day whether those two things were connected or not.
Police also released this composite of a woman spotted in the area who they believed was either the suspect or an accomplice. It generated no leads. With the obvious suspects all but eliminated, detectives grew desperate. Every day for 6 months, the lead detective staked out the cemetery where Cathy is buried, hoping the killer would pay her a visit.
On the anniversary of her killing, the 1-year anniversary bill, 2 days before and 2 days after. On the trailer back over off in the gravesite. That's where we found this guy. He had a friendship ring that he got from Cathy in elementary school. And after she was buried, he went out and another one spot and grabbed the ring. It's a friendship ring. And we got him on video.
The detective described the man as shy, bashful, and a bit withdrawn. Another side-by-side comparison of prints, another suspect eliminated.
So the fingerprint and footprint were almost like this get-out-of-jail-free card, right?
Yes, it was.
Within 3 years of the killing, police had fingerprinted and taken footprints of more than 1,000 people and said they had 3,000 to go. The footprint, like Cinderella's glass slipper, with police looking for an exact fit.
Everyone cooperated because they didn't do it. We thought the first time someone says no, we're going to focus the light on them and see what we need to do. But no one said no.
And they eliminated seemingly everyone, even convicted child killer Daniel Furlong, rightfully considered the creepiest man in St. Joseph County.
My grandpa thought it was a cop, like it was a cover-up.
There were a lot of rumors going on back then that the police were involved in this. Did you hear those?
Oh, all the time. In fact, people will still say it.
But the former prosecutor says that every Three Rivers officer was printed and all were eliminated.
When this first happened, we had this great forensic evidence of we're going to solve this by the first of the year. And then we made an arrest and it isn't the right guy. And then we're going to solve it by the end of the year. And then we're going to solve it within 2 years. And then it's 5 years and 10 years. And then all of a sudden it was 30 years.
Also, several years after the murder, former Michigan State Police crime scene tech Ken Lanninga was onto his new assignment, investigating car thefts, when he found himself in Three Rivers.
I pulled into the driveway there, and I immediately remembered that that was the apartment complex where Cathy had been killed. So I sat in the parking lot, and I remember just praying to God that that case could get solved.
I remember just when I was little, like praying to God, like, please let me find out who did this.
After the break, years of frustration and lost evidence leads to doubts. With few solid leads, it appeared Cathy Swartz's killer would get away with it.
I kept thinking, it's in here. I'm just not seeing it, that it's in here.
Courtney Swartz was 9 months old when her mom was killed in the room next door, a murder she doubted would ever be solved. Ken Colker continues his investigation.
Courtney was raised by her mom's parents, David and Audrey Swartz, Pops and Mama Augie. Reports in probate court tracked her childhood, the puppy she got for Christmas, the visits to her mom at the cemetery, the swing set for her birthday, a girl who knew her numbers by the time she was 3. Grandparents who loved her. But when she was little, there was a distance between her and her grandfather.
I think my grandpa kind of thought I looked a lot like my mom and kind of like tried to occupy his mind, not on that.
But they grew closer as she grew up. He became dad.
We ended up getting really, really close as I got older. My grandpa was like he ended up being my best friend.
She was in the 1st grade when Pops and Grandma Augie first told her about her mom.
They sat me down on the bed and they told me, we got to talk to you like about your mom if you want to know. And I said, well, yeah, I want to know. And they told me that a bad man hurt my mom and that she was up in heaven.
Then in the 4th grade, they sat her down again.
They actually told me that my mom was murdered. Somebody entered the apartment and beat her really bad. She had just had like a root canal done, and that is the side that she was mostly beaten on. Then they slit her neck from ear to ear. I stayed home from school that day, and
How does a little girl handle something like that?
I don't know. Like I just took it in and I just tried to live like a normal kid.
She was 16 when her pop sat her down with a box of police reports and newspaper stories on the murder.
I feel like I want to know everything. Like, that's my mom, you know? Like, I don't know. I want to know everything. So I read it. I guess I just wanted to feel like some closure to her, I guess. Like some close, I don't know. But I read it and it's very awful.
Courtney had her first child when she was 19, living scared, she says, in her first apartment on her own in Constantine, thinking about her mom.
And all I could think about is this gonna happen to me too? Or like, and I used to sleep with like knives in my drawer, like by my bed, and like I still do.
She, like most in town, feared the detectives would never solve her mom's murder. A jumble of 10,000 yellowing pages of police reports in boxes. Task force after task force getting nowhere.
After so long and so many stories, and like there would be leads, they'd let, oh, we got a lead, and then nothing else again. And that went on for like a long time.
Middleton, who was then the prosecutor, occasionally locked himself in his office, poring over reports.
I kept thinking, it's in here. I'm just not seeing it, that it's in here. And it was. And I didn't see it.
Through all of this, police kept coming back to Troy Schulteis, the ex-boyfriend who loved Metallica and went by Harley, even calling him a viable person of interest years later. Were you shocked when they arrested him?
No. I was shocked when he was let go, because I was like, what? Because then it's like, well, who was it then?
In 2012, members of the new task force sat down with the original detective, Kenny Baker, who was fighting cancer.
I've got too many known to run up in my chest.
Baker's partner in the original investigation remained certain that Harley was the killer.
He was sure trying to, but the fingerprints and footprints were traced. So that means there had to be a second part of the trial when they come back during the day.
Police had heard rumors that the second party was Harley's father. His father died before detectives could check his prints.
So we never got those fingerprints or footprints. There was no evidence that Mr. Schulteis had helped Troy, but the rumor was.
Schulteis sued police in federal court, claiming they had ruined his reputation, but a judge tossed the suit.
Clearly, he was under this cloud of suspicion.
Yes, he was. And I guess that's unfair.
So, more than 20 years after the murder, in an interview room at Three Rivers PD, the new detectives were sitting down with the cop who was there from the start, spitballing, speculating, testing his memory.
My memory's pretty good when it comes to this stuff for a long time, isn't it?
They asked for his theories.
We might be all whatever. That's why you're here, to give us other avenues to look at. We never saw it.
And they asked, what about all the evidence that was lost? The bloody shower curtains, video from Cathy's funeral, the 35mm camera from Cathy's bedroom. Tough to solve a case without all the evidence. And while the new detective still had that unknown fingerprint left in blood on the phone, what about the other prints lifted from the rest of the apartment?
If there was a crime, so where are all those things at? All I know is this: someplace there's a pot full of prints that were taken out, they're all marked where they came from.
And the new detectives revealed to him what they saw as new evidence.
But we recently just discovered that there was a blood stain on that same telephone that did not belong to the victim, did not belong to Michael Warner, did not belong to Troy Schulteis, did not belong to Mike Howard. The profile came back to a male. It's entered in CODIS at this point in time. As of 2 months ago, we have not got hit.
Police hope that CODIS, the combined DNA index system, would match the newly discovered DNA to one of the thousands of profiles from known criminals at other crime scenes across the country.
And that was probably was the most frustrating for anyone involved working the case. We knew we had the fingerprint and footprint, and when later as DNA developed, but originally out of the gate, knew we had the killer's fingerprint and footprint. But
so you're thinking, gonna solve this pretty quick?
Well, that was the hope, yes.
There's no way detectives thought that this could be a one and done. The killer had to have left his fingerprints or DNA at some other crime scene, before or after. The original detective was certain that the killer was still alive.
Now you got DNA, you got finger, you got footprint. Why is the person there?
Finally, in May 2022, the Michigan State Police Crime Lab DNA director in Grand Rapids suggested one last chance to solve the decades-old case. The state police sent a frozen DNA sample from Cathy's pink phone to a fledgling forensics genome sequencing lab known as Avram in suburban Houston, Texas.
The kind of cases we work are the cases where there is no hope left. There's nothing else that can be done.
The standard CODIS test looks at 20 DNA markers, enough to match with a known suspect or find a close relative. But Avram scientists build DNA profiles based on hundreds of thousands of markers.
So if you have a small number of markers, you're only going to get very close relationships. If you have a large number of markers, which is what we have built, then you are getting really distant relatives, like sixth cousins, fifth cousins, fourth cousins, relatives you do not know whatsoever.
Avram enters the detailed DNA profile into public genealogical databases to find distant relatives. The team narrows the search through birth, marriage, and death records to finish building a family tree. By January 2023, using that blood on Cathy's phone, Avram had narrowed it down. Her killer was one of 4 sons of John and Judith Waters, who had raised their family just north of Three Rivers.
How does that feel in a case like this where you can call them and say, we've got you a lead? They haven't had a lead in 35 years.
It's the most incredible feeling in the world to know that you can help bring answers to someone's family that has been waiting for them for so long.
After the break, new DNA technology had narrowed the list of suspects down to 4 brothers. But which one?
Like I said on the phone, my name is Sam Smallcombe. I'm the detective here. And I'm working on a cold case from 1988.
New DNA technology brought investigators to the brink of something that had seemed impossible, solving the 1988 murder of Cathy Swartz. The killer had to be one of 4 sons of a couple that had raised their family just outside of Three Rivers. Now it was time to narrow that list down to 1.
All right, boys, nice to see you wherever you like. The road officers get noisy. Hey, I appreciate you coming in at short notice. No problem. Like I said over the phone, my name is Sam Smallcombe. I'm the detective here. And I'm working on a cold case from 1988 that's been unsolved all this time. Okay.
The DNA of John and Judith Waters' youngest son was already in the system and didn't match. 2 other brothers agreed to DNA tests. One of those brothers, Sonny Waters, is meeting with the latest of the detectives working the case, who mentions nothing about the newest DNA work, how the list of killers had been narrowed down to him and his brothers.
Literally, I have a list of 2,000 names from that time period of people that were living in the area, and your name just happens to be on the list, and for whatever reason, nobody ever contacted you, or...
Oh, this is the first I've ever heard of anybody.
Okay.
Including you said my 2 brothers here, they have never said a word about
Okay.
Brother Rodney in South Carolina.
There's a reason Sonny Waters says that his brother Robert left Three Rivers decades earlier.
He got in a little trouble here at home. They put him in a juvenile home for a little while. He done his time there and done good, got out, and married a real nice lady.
Okay.
And she said, I'm getting you out of this state. She said, you're not gonna hang around here because it's not gonna be good for you. He started his own plumbing business out there, and he's been doing it ever since.
Would you consent if I take a sample of your DNA? It's just a swab. It'll only be used for this case. I'm not entering you into a database or anything like that. just to compare with my suspect from the case.
Sure, I have nothing to hide. I would love to help any way I can.
Okay, so I appreciate that.
Get justice done. That's the same thing.
So we inside your sheet. 2, 3, 4. Let's take that right there.
It wasn't long before they were down to one. Robert Waters. Remember, he was the childhood friend of Cathy's fiancée.
I ran into him in the grocery store, I believe, and invited him over. He came over one night.
Just a month before the murder, Waters had visited Cathy and Mike's apartment, but he had moved away to Phoenix, and police never talked to him.
Yeah, he was one line and 10,000 pages of police reports. But he was in there. I always felt the guy that did it is in here somewhere.
Good morning. How you doing? Good. How are you? How can we help you? I'm Sam Slocum. I'm from Three Rivers PD. This is Todd Peters from Michigan State Police. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Can we talk for just a couple minutes?
Sure. All right. Yeah, we can go back in here. You got stuff to do in there. Yeah. So, we were just wanting help kind of out of the blue. Just got by here, but we had both talked to your brothers. Okay. Not sure, maybe they told you we didn't talk to them back in February. Right. So I'm helping Sam, and we reopened this case from Three Rivers way back in the day, going back through and getting interviews and just figuring out everything. Okay. So we were wondering if you'd have time to come down to the PD and talk with us down there. Yeah. Okay. You just get yourself down there. We can. Are you available right now?
It was 7:40 in the morning on April 30th, a Sunday, in Beaufort, South Carolina. Waters, now 53, was a successful plumber, married, 2 children, living in a $500,000 home. Police were not letting on that he was their one and only suspect.
We're kind of making a circle around, trying to clean up all the people who aren't in Michigan, just trying to clear everybody and say, hey, we talked to them, and that's kind of how we do stuff. I know it's kind of a shocker to have us just, boom, show up. We'll just expect you in a couple minutes and we'll reach you down. All right. Thanks, sir.
But Waters did not show up, leading to this phone call from State Police Detective Todd Peterson.
This is Robert.
Hey, Robert. Todd Peterson from the State Police.
I'm just getting ready to head up that way.
Oh, okay.
And basically you want to question me about what again?
It's about, you may not even remember us. Back in 1988, there was a homicide of a girl in Three Rivers, Michigan, where you used to live or near.
Okay.
Yep. And so we opened that case back up.
When exactly did that happen?
1988.
But when in the 88? Because I do know that we were in Arizona because my daughter was born down there in Phoenix.
By mid-morning, police were back at Waters' home.
Hey, gentlemen. Hello. Hey, gentlemen. Hey, he called you back.
Yeah, he did.
I know you wanted to drive yourself down.
That's fine.
We'll have you ride.
No, he said just ride with that.
And we'll back up.
Waters has been a plumber for 20 years.
We had like 6 trucks.
Oh, gee.
7 hours of small talk.
And in summer it's hot, hot, hot.
Yeah.
And in the winter it's cold, cold, cold.
Yeah.
I don't care what they tell you. Universe and Island. I mean, don't say I don't drink a soda every now and then. I put up the flat, smooth, Hardy Point 4HGs.
What Waters doesn't know is that state police at a lab in Michigan are checking his newly taken prints against the print left in blood on Cathy's pink telephone 35 years ago.
Struggling with this quick here. So you could like take the finger, both the right middle and the right ring, and roll the entire finger, and then also
On this side, this one, same exact thing.
Then his palms. And back to small talk.
If you like seafood,
Yeah, I do.
you will like that place. And let's just mark that one as bright seafood.
A third printing, and still no complaints. More small talk, this time about his homeowners association. It's been good.
Still work very well.
They are certain this will be the last. Themselves to Robert Waters, the room at the Beaufort Police Department.
We just submit the warrant for your arrest of murder Cathy Swartz. Okay?
Okay.
The blood left on detectives, including Kenny Baker, 29th, to tell her they reopened the case.
Waters in custody.
A man she had never heard of.
It kills knowing down there living the best life that they could. My kids never feel what I felt.
No.
As she was county sheriff's deputies to return Waters to Michigan, she prepared herself to see him in court.
To look at me or anything. He didn't have to say anything. I'm the baby. Here I am, 35.
But just 5 days and 8 hours after,
one of my friends, well, he is where he needs